Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Yes, it is Sunday night and it is time for another live stream. Hello to everyone in the chat. I hope you are all safe and well. I can see everyone there. I'll go through the names in a minute. In fact, I'll do that and then you can see them there next to me. Tonight, we're going to be talking about lots of really good stuff because it's been a really interesting week. There is so much to talk about on HDZero. There is so much around the corner for HDZero, and some of this really does warrant proper discussion. We're going to talk about ExpressLRS 3.0, but as well as what is known as Gemini. This is something that has blown my mind today. I think I might have been one of the first people to see it, actually, because it was posted first thing. But I also want to talk about my experience updating to 3.0 today. I left it a few weeks, didn't want to jump in too soon. Everything has been done. Have had one or two problems, but learned a bit as well today. I'm not the greatest expert on ExpressLRS in the sense of some of the quirks of the system and how to find things out, and we'll talk about that tonight as well. And we'll also talk about other things that I've put in the chat section because I can't remember what I've said. Now, hello to everyone in the chat. Let me scroll back up, and as you can't see in front of me, but let me go to the overhead. Let me get rid of that fly in the overhead. I've got myself a cake. And I've got myself a cup of tea as always. So I've got a nice cup of tea there, ready to go. And I've got a cake, which I will be eating throughout this stream, as always. You won't see Bardwell eating a cake live on stream, the professional streamer that those guys are. You don't get no professionalism here. Last week, what was I munching through last week? I can't remember. It went on for hours. But anyway. So, good evening, everyone in the chat. I think our man was actually here early doors. I did see, let me close that, YouTube telling me it would be a good time to put an ad in, really, right at the start of the stream, YouTube. Unbelievable, unbelievable. We're going to talk a bit about some other things as well. And at the end, I want to talk a little bit about EVGA and the news from EVGA that they're dropping NVIDIA. And the reason I want to talk about this, because it's nothing to do with drones, but there's something that I really like in this, and this is someone stuffing it to a manufacturer or a company when they're being treated badly. And I do wish we'd see this happen in FPV a little bit, or drones at least as well, and we'll talk about that later. So I think I saw Jay here earlier. I want to say good. I think he was first, in fact. So hello, Jay, if you are here. Terminal Insanity, hope you're well. Hello, Bruce. How are you? I hope you're safe and well. I watched your video on the Avatar. I don't agree with it, but I watched your video on the Avatar. And what I don't agree with is DJI's lying. I don't believe for 1 minute DJI is lying. They're not stupid enough to lie. I think we're missing something, that's for sure, but I don't think they're lying. But we might talk about that a little bit later on. Flying Dutchman, hope you are well. Mr. Roddy, Bobby Bags, hello, hello, hello. Free Range Chicken FPV, hello, how are you, my friend? I hope you're well. Isaac, Expander, Peppermint, hey, Peppermint, how are you, my friend? Chris, Dennis, God, so many people. George, Geordie, hello, hello, hello. So, hello to everyone. Oh my God, and we've had a super chat already. Quad City Bay Area, $5 super chat. Frank, thank you, my friend. My Walksnail goggles won't power up, and I think it's fried due to CX. What are my options? I don't want to send it to China. Right. I think I heard your post on JB's stream. I had JB's stream on in the background while I was tidying up. What I tend to do on a Sunday before I go live is have a bit of a tidy up in here because it's always a crap tip in this room. And I normally put JB on, then I'll listen to a couple of other streams along the way and catch up on stuff as well. Right. I'm going to start afresh on this. Right. Are the goggles turning on at all? Is what we need to know first of all. If they are not powering on and you have powered them up on 6S, the chances are they are burnt out. Changing the power board is not simple on those goggles. Repairing it is an unknown. No one has repaired it at this moment in time. Okay. My only advice I can honestly give you is return them to Walksnail because that's going to be the only option. And the reason I say that is this. Let me show you something. let me just go to a website. And we're going to talk about this a little bit in a minute as well. We're going to hop over to the desktop. On repair.wiki, I have uploaded all of the images for the inside of these systems, including here, ladies and gentlemen, the images for the goggles 2 are up there. But we'll come back to that in a minute. What we want is avatar. So avatar goggles. There are images in here of the power board. I know they're here because I put them there myself. So this is the main image of the internal power board on the unit. It is not easy to get to. What you may have done, we don't know. You may have burnt this regulator. You may have burnt a diode. There's also a shunt resistor on this side. Current resistor might be something to do with that. The reality is this. We do not know. There is no easy way to fix this. Right? It's that simple. We don't even know what the part number is on that IC there. Getting this board out is a complete teardown of the goggles. You're not going to want to do it. I'm sorry, you're not going to want to do it. The only option I can give you that is reasonable is send them to China. Work the maiden flight and then won't power up. Sparks when you put it in the barrel. Chances are there's a short on the DC input. Don't keep trying to plug it in. Send them back. If you really want to try something, do you own a multimeter? Thank you for the second super chat. You don't need to keep giving me super chats to reply, by the way. I will try to answer without you keep replying, but we'll come back to that. If you don't own a multimeter, send them back. The only option I can give you is send them back. No, we haven't. I haven't taken the board down to this level. Someone else did and provided me the images. I've not measured it further down. So I can only tell you to send it back. That's the only option you've got. I honestly, right now, you cannot buy this board. This board is not available. That's a cake. You can't buy it. You can't get it anywhere else. You need to send it back. It's the only option I can give you, my friend. It really, really is. It's the best option. Okay, so, but I really, really appreciate the super chats. I really do. What a drag. It is. There's nothing you can do. They're not designed for 6S. There is a huge amount of noise around this. Walksnail did rate them at 6S and then changed it to 5. The chances are something's let go. The chances are it's shorted. It's probably shorted internally, and that's why when you're plugging it in, it's sparking. If you had a multimeter, we might be able to test it. Next time you plug, as Junus has said, the next time you plug it in, make sure you're being careful. Free Range Chicken, thank you for that. I really do appreciate it. Now, that's a $10 super chat. That's amazing. Thank you for that. Right. Okay. Before we get started, I need to promote something. Friday night on this channel, Junus and a number of members of the dev team of the FPV.wtf group, team, whatever, organization, whatever we're going to call them, are going to be here on the channel. There is a live stream next week you do not want to miss. That live stream will be the official, unofficial beta launch of that amazing work that they have done. I'm not going to talk about it any more than that today, other than you need to be here this time next week. Because, not this time next week, Friday, 10 p.m. You need to be here for that because we're going to be talking to them. We're going to talk about what they've done, why they've done it, and what functionality we've got with that as well. And I just wanted to get that out of the way up front. So, image... Geordie, I flew my avatar for the first time today and the image quality sucks. Surprised at that. It's better than most of the other stuff out there. What are my thoughts regarding the GoPro 11? We'll come on to the GoPro 11 a little bit later. Okay, I want to talk about the GoPro 11, actually. We've had the camera releases as well. Okay, the first thing I want to talk about is this. HDZero. Now, this is Ryan Quillet's Facebook. No, it isn't. It's Ryan Quillet's YouTube channel. If you don't know who Ryan is, he's one of the big sort of testers and supporters of HDZero. And he's released quite a few videos this week. And there's a few things I want to talk about because there's just some really cool stuff here. Now, I've got some notes on my phone. He's released a video talking about testing the new goggles, which is this one here. And then he talks about the world's fastest and smoothest FPV system, which we'll come on to in a minute. Now, there are two big things that are coming here. There is going to be a new 90 frames per second mode in HDZero with a new 90 frames per second camera. Now, this is going to be coming in the near future. It is only going to work with the HDZero goggles because they are the only goggles that support 90 frames a second that will allow HDZero to input into it. For instance, the HDO2s, the Orqas, none of them, as far as we know, support 90 hertz. So they are going to offer a 90 hertz mode, which is going to allow for 720p by 540p resolution. So it's a drop down in resolution, but very, very minimal. Overall, I don't think it looks too different, but it's going to give us the lowest latency we have probably seen in FPV at somewhere between 13 and 16 milliseconds end to end. You're getting about 1.5 more times frames for compared to 60 frames a second. And there's also an interesting quirk on this, is that you will be able to potentially clock this back down to 60 frames a second, but keep the resolution the same and get better penetration from this system. So that is really, really interesting. Again, it's going to be a new camera, and you're going to have the HDZero goggles to use this, but they're saying the people who've used it is just so smooth, it's night and day. And I'll be honest, the difference between 720p and 540p will be minimal overall. But not just that. There is going to be finally this 1080p 30 mode coming, and that 1080p 30 mode is going to work on any of the systems that support 1080p. So that should be the VRX modules, the Scout HDs, and the HDZero goggles, and it's going to work with all of the current version 2 cameras from HDZero. So that isn't new cameras, that is the Nano V2 and the Micro V2. So if you already have them, they are going to be introducing this 1080p 30 mode. Now, obviously, as a result of going down to 30 frames a second, you're going to increase latency. Again, it's going to be around 36 to 40 milliseconds, somewhere in the same region that we see from the likes of Walksnail and the reality of DJI. Now, I'm going to be really interested to see what this 1080p mode looks like. I think it could be really, really interesting. Obviously, it's going to have an effect. There is no 50 megabits mode in HDZero. I spoke to Carl about this today, actually, funny enough, because I asked him why we don't have a wider bandwidth mode, and the reality is they just can't support it in the system. It was never designed for wider bandwidths like we see on HD systems such as Avatar and DJI. However, what they can do is use that 1080p 30 mode, which is going to offer a lot more resolution. Now, Ryan has put some videos up on his channel. Let me just put them up here. And it all looks super, super interesting. It really, really does. The goggles are looking fantastic. And he actually has given us, if you guys haven't seen this, let me just mute that. He's also given us a walkthrough of the menu system on the new HDZero goggles. Just a basic overview of how the menu system looks. Let me just get it to the right spot and go full screen. New system is going to look like on the new goggles. I like it. I think it looks nice, looks tidy, logical. Oh, I'm getting a bit of... That's weird. I'm getting some breakup on my camera as I'm doing that. That's weird. We're getting glitching in the system. I might have to make that smaller. That's very weird why I'm getting that. I'm going to just close 2 windows a moment just to make sure that they're not causing it. There we go. But you can see the menu system. I should have probably rebooted before doing the stream. You get some issues. But yeah, it looks really, really good. Full fan control. Fantastic. It really does. So it's going to be interesting to see. And then he's been doing some recording on a DVR on the system as well, just demonstrating it there too. Probably the EVGA NVIDIA breakup, probably. But Ryan has got these videos out. If you haven't got his YouTube channel, please do check it out. As I've said, he has all of the content here on it. And it's just looking really interesting how much this system is improving and developing as time goes on. I really can't wait for these goggles. I really can't. Remember, 1080p OLED displays, 90 Hz, HDMI in, HDMI out, analog bay option. What is not to like about these? I just hope they get the optics right. I just hope they get the optics right. My only concern with HDZero at the moment is that it is still being heavily driven from a racing point of view, and that doesn't really appeal to the whole FPV market. And I understand the push, but my only concern is that it is really pushed towards racing, and that seems to override at times everything else. And I do hope that we see just a lot more of the features everyone else wants too. It looks like it. It looks like it's there, but not everyone is racing. Latency isn't the major factor for many people. So that's the thing. It's an interesting question. Guillemona, Bardwell claims that HDZero breaks easily. He's not wrong, but you've got to understand the differences. Okay, I have made a lot of content on this channel about repairing HDZero VTXs. In fact, I'm the only channel that's made content about fixing HDZero VTXs. We've done live streams, we've done teardowns. I've had more HDZero VTXs sent to me than I've ever had anything else. Do I think HDZero VTXs are more fragile than DJI? Yes, 100%. Apart from, no, yes, all of them. Okay? All of them are. Do I? No. Now, there's a number of things you need to take into account here. The HDZero VTXs are, for the most part, completely unprotected, apart from the 1 watt freestyle. So, they are going to be easily more damaged. However, there is no question, in my opinion, that the HDZero VTXs do have a slight problem with how soft the solder is. Audio cuts out. Is my audio cutting out? It looks all right on my side, if you're talking about my side. Ah, cut out for a couple of seconds. Okay, weird. So, there is no question in my mind that the solder on HDZero VTXs is soft, right? Ports rip off easily. The components are easily ripped from the board. Now, this isn't really specific to HDZero. It's more to do with how easy it is to break off components that are fitted with solder paste. And just to give you a demo of this, it's easy to say it affects HDZero only. However, let me just find it. I crashed this yesterday, and I have ripped the port off the GPS module. So, it happens on everything. This is the problem. Now, this is all as a result of the solder paste method on the board design. It's all lead-free. Let me just put that down. It's all lead-free to start with, and the solder paste method really does mean that the components lay in the solder and don't really have solder over them. Now, if I was completely bashing my VTXs, the first thing I would do with all of my VTXs would be to add more solder to the grounding pins on either side. So let me grab a VTX and show you what I mean on this. may have one here. Here we go. So, what I would mean on this is where the solder goes on the pad edges, I would be adding more. I think if you use some, I would strongly advise, if anyone owned these and they're bashing them, is to put some acrylic or some very good adhesive around the ports, especially these ports, these little ones here. And I would probably touch up the UFL under the microscope to make sure that it is absolutely solid. There is no question the HDZero stuff gets affected. But that is mostly because it has been built very bare bones. If you take the Freestyle VTX, the 1 watt, about the only thing I have seen on that happens commonly is it rips the ports off. It rips the power port off, or it rips the firmware update port off. I'd be using epoxy. Bruce is right there, whole thing in epoxy. I would absolutely be epoxy in the ports. Now, there is an argument to be said that perhaps HDZero should start doing this from the factory. Would you? Hot glue isn't going to do anything. It's got to be epoxy. Hot glue isn't going to do a thing. It's going to have to be something with a good amount of adhesive. Now, there is an argument to be said this should be done by HDZero at the factory. You know, if we know it's happening, I would argue that you could blame them. But it's not that their design is bad. Now, the Vista is solid. There's no question about this. But it's covered in bloody metal. But then again, people rip UFLs off of Vista all of the time. All of the time people rip UFLs off of Vista. It's not uncommon. But that's the only bit is easy to damage because there's no port on it. You don't rip the USB port on because that's USB-C is pretty solid as well. So I think that is where HDZero is let down. So are they less robust? Yes. The Whoop VTX does like to burn itself out, I'll be honest. That's why I've tried to fix so many of them on this channel. They do burn the 5-volt regulators out. It does happen. I think they've tried to counteract that in the design. What I've noticed is they've added TVS diodes to later designs of the standard Whoop VTX than the original one, but the race ones are all pretty good. I strongly believe if you're using a HDZero VTX or any digital VTX, you should be running it off a BEC, or if you're running it off battery voltage, you should absolutely use TVS diodes. Absolutely use TVS diodes. I'm going to hit that. CB Runner. If HDZero had a retransmit model, I'd be all in. Sorry, I've been with it. HDZero is designed to stream low latency. Could they make a dual system in the future? Maybe. It's not going to happen on the current hardware. More delicate flying groups. Yeah, it's different everywhere. It's how they're mounted. It's how they're set up. It's how hard they're crashed. His wife has poisoned my tea. Yeah, no, it was the cake went to my throat, Bruce. MMCX 2-hole pins are really strong. Yeah, UFLs are horrible. Fitting is absolutely key. You know, it is. And it isn't that HDZero... I don't believe it is in really any way more susceptible, more poorly designed than DJI. It's just a different design of board. Do I think there's more HDZero could do? Yes. I think what would be good if HDZero just epoxied their boards out the factory. Just woof, and then they'd be solid. But then they'd be almost impossible to repair. So it's cost versus benefit. It's a catch-22. It's a catch-22. I think JB's comment, I think he's not wrong, but it isn't inherent. it's understanding that a Vista is built much stronger. I have burnt out a Vista and an ear unit, and people do burn them out. It does happen. Not often, but it does happen. Have we seen a lot more HDZero VTXs burn out? Potentially, but they're used in a lot more difficult situations. You know, not many people are racing DJI and slamming them into gates at full speed or into chairs or posts or whatever they hit. So, I'm professional at burning stuff up. And I burned out a DJI unit on the shelf and I still on the bench, and I still don't know why that happened. Hard landings, sorry, hard landings. So anyway, HDZero, 90 frames a second mode coming on a new dedicated camera, HDZero goggles only. We will have a 1080p 30 mode coming, which is going to work on anything that supports the 1080p mode. The low latency mode as low as 13 to 15 milliseconds of latency, 13 to 16 most likely. We're then going to have that new 1080p mode with the goggles as well. Goggles should be by year end. Something else HDZero announced is that they're going to be doing a sort of beta option for the goggles where people will get to buy in early if you want them. They are going to be out there. They're going to be available to purchase before the main production run, but you are going to be classed as a beta tester, basically. I'm on several lists, Jamie. Good and bad. I'm on many lists. Yes, I'm on a list somewhere. I have said to Carl, when they're available to buy, let me know. I will plan to be buying them, as I do with the hardware on the channel. Not the same one. Yeah. The plan will be to buy them. And I'll just give you my thoughts as I always do. Yeah, we're going to have to see. We're going to have to see. So, Mad Tech Wife, hope you're not fighting with Bardwell. I haven't spoken to Bardwell for JB for ages and ages and ages. I think I spoke to JB a few times. We don't really, nothing to fight. We don't really have anything to do with each other. We're separate channels. They cross over now and again, but just like many other channels, we do our own thing, and yeah, that's about it, really. Watching Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Very good. So, that's the thing with HDZero. Lots and lots of super interesting stuff to come. As we got Jamie here, Jamie, I want to borrow... We need to have a chat. I want to borrow your Race VTX. No, I don't. I want to borrow your Race VRX. Is there a week or so where you're not using it, where I can get it? I can pay for it to be shipped to me, and you can ship, and I can ship it back. I want to get that on the channel. Help me. I can't find a tutorial for DJI goggles firmware. Wait till Friday. Wait till Friday. Also, Jamie, I saw you with those nice cars and your little trip with the hooligans at the your little clip with the hooligans this morning, nicking your drone as well. I hope you got it back. Not that I'm watching you or anything, but no, I did see the stream very quickly this morning. And those cars. But no, if you don't know who Jamie is, he races in the UK. A bunch of amazing guys and amazing guys. So that is where we're at HDZero. Goggles should be by the end of the year. Plan is to buy them. And I'll tell you what I think. They will get the same treatment as everything else. It's as simple as that. At the end of the day, I will tell you exactly what I think about them, just as I have with Avatar. This is actually a good time for me to talk about Avatar a little bit, actually, and I didn't plan this bit, but we will talk about the Avatar system now quickly, because last week they pulled the firmware that was released due to there being issues. Now, I actually flew that firmware finally this week. Weather's been terrible. I've been traveling and I hadn't been able to do it. And I finally flew the firmware that they've pulled just to see what the differences were. Now, From my point of view, nothing has really changed in that firmware with regards to image quality. Nothing has really changed with regards to the compression behavior. And whilst there are improvements, there are still the same fundamental issues for me in it that there was before, that it is just too dark to fly in South Wales because you're looking at holes in trees and you can't see anything. It's just a black mass in the corner and you can't see anything until you get right into it, and it's just too dangerous, to be honest. At times there was a point where I was flying it and someone started walking across the other corner of the field, and I come around, I couldn't see them. I just couldn't see them until it was like, oh right, okay, there's someone there. Now Avatar is in a strange position, right? We are still in a position where the radio link hasn't really improved. The overall behavior is the same. It's still not progressive like DJI. It's still in a position where there is all sorts of strange things happening with the RF link, and the guys who are doing long-range tests are seeing this. They actually think a lot of this is due to the fact of when it switches MCS mode. I don't know what's the easiest way of explaining this. Right. Whilst it's easy to think your system just transmits all of the time, it does, but it actually changes the transmission modes as the signal gets weaker. So the easiest way to think about this is you have sort of QAM 64 or 256, which is a modulation method. And then as the signal reduces, it sort of steps down through the bandwidth modes. So as your bandwidth reduces, it steps down through the compression modes as it gets down to a basic compression towards the end, and it steps down, 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 and down. And something that seems to have been noticed is they're getting loss of signals as it's stepping over an MCS change and an MCS mode change. So you might be switching from one modulation type to another, and whereas it should just switch, it isn't doing it as smoothly as it could be. And this is why you haven't seen videos from the likes of Wes and the others, because they're doing long-range tests and they've had some good numbers, but the link isn't stable. The link is doing very, very weird stuff. So we've got that. They have fixed the issue in the goggles that they were always on high power mode. There is a new low power mode on the goggles now as too, which I'll be talking about in an upcoming video. But the reality today is the RF system still isn't fixed. The image quality is not where it needs to be with regards to contrast, brightness, and dynamic range. Now, we are at about 3 months after launch today. If by Christmas, January, maybe end of January, we have not seen some of these fundamental issues really change, I'll be honest, I don't know where this system will stand, because we will be 6 months into its ownership by then. And I'll be honest, if after 6 months they haven't been able to fix the main fundamental issues, then I don't believe they'll ever be fixed. I'll be honest. And that's where my thoughts are. Now, they launched it early. There's no question the system was launched way too early. That's not in doubt. But 6 months should have been long enough to get the fundamental problems fixed. And whilst they have fixed a lot of really good stuff, 4x3 mode, the bricking issues, they've added 50 megabits mode fixed. They've improved it in high power modes. They've added lots of other stuff. The real issues remain that the RF behavior is not what it needs to be, and the image quality is not where it needs to be as well. And if it isn't finished, in at least we haven't seen a major step by January, end of January, I'll be honest, I don't think it'll happen. I just don't think it. How long can you wait for a system to have the basics sorted? I don't care about 4x3 mode. I don't care about ranging mode. I don't care about it being limited to a watt instead of 1200 milliwatts because it's not working properly. I don't care that focus mode isn't there yet. I don't care that they don't have zoom there yet. What should be in place today is the RF link stable and the image quality sorted. And the problem is right now, they've gone around the houses in which way they fixed this. All of the niceties are done, but the main fundamentals are still the same. Now, not everyone will agree with me. There are many people who think the system is good enough as it is today. I don't agree with that at all. For anything outside of certain specific freestyle flying. They need to get the fundamentals done. But if they are not done by, say, the 31st of January, we're 6 months in, how long can you keep saying they're working on it, they're working on it, they're working on it? 6 months, we should have had the main fundamental issues resolved. And if we haven't, I will be concerned. Genuinely, I will be concerned. So I'm going to take a bite of my cake a moment. Fail safe. You got hit like I did. Yeah, you hit it at sunset. It is horrendous at sunset. And any low sun is going to be impossible. And it's just gone pretty much black. Yeah, that is the issue. And I'm not saying they're not trying. They're trying hugely. Walksnail are trying. And I'm communicating with them quite a bit in the background. I've been giving them advice if I can. I've been asked some questions on some stuff. You know, they did reach out to me a few weeks ago and asked, would I talk to them and their engineering teams and give feedback? I am more than happy to do that. I am doing that for free. I have openly said to them, I will give them any feedback I can give. There are things they will tell me that will remain between me and them, but I'm not being paid for doing it, and I will still say exactly what I think about the product, and that was the agreement I made before agreeing to sort of give them some advice and help here and there. But that doesn't mean they get a free ride. It will be the same as I did anyone else. I don't think they can, Bruce. It's not their choice. The manufacturer's never going to allow it. Someone should do a teardown of the DJI goggles too to have a look at what the magic sauce is. We already have, David, and there's no magic sauce. That's a really nice transition. For those who didn't see, earlier this week I did a video talking about the magic sauce in the DJI FPV goggles version 2. And basically, there isn't any. Let's go on the desktop. If we go back on repair.wiki, I have now uploaded the images of the boards of the DJI goggles 2. They are on the website. So if we go here and we go back, you will now see on repair.wiki, we have DJI goggles 2. And here we now have the internal PCBs as well as the internal antennas, as well as a couple of other images that I've put up. I'm going to be adding more over the next few weeks as well. But you want to know what the magic sauce is in the DJI goggles 2? There it is. That's the magic sauce. There isn't any. Basically, there is some changes. We know what they are. The big changes, okay, if we go in, the big changes here, right? Still, same chipset, P1, as before. Let me just get this in the right position. Still what they were using, but what they're doing differently in the V2s is they're using this, the E3T, or what is known as the Eagle. This is a media processor, is probably the right term to use in the DJI goggles. It's not really a coprocessor, but what they're doing now is rather than like in the V1s, run everything on the P1. So the P1 is an ARM SoC. It has the RF baseband on board and the modems on board, and then that's all encoded in there. So you have the LTE modems, the baseband, and everything in that chip. Now they're basically just using that chip as the modem, so the baseband, the LTE cores, the DSPs, but they're doing all of the processing beforehand, for the most part, on the E3T, as we understand it. So they've basically offloaded the heavy lifting into a newer, more powerful processor. That's what's allowing them to do H.265. That's what's allowing them to do some of the newer stuff. The very basics of this, though, is that it's still P1 based. It is still OcuSync. Nothing has fundamentally changed. We've got 8 gigs of DDR4 on the media processor, 4 gigs on the P1. And then over here, it's the same transceiver setup, nothing different to the V2s, 2 IE100,000s on either side, exactly the same as before. Our power amps, so you've got 2.45 gig, 2.45 gig on 2 transceivers, and that's it. There's really nothing magical here. But the big difference is they're offloading the processing to this. Now, this is very similar to what they do on their normal drones. I'll be honest, that's mostly the same. Worth pointing out, it's the same setup as Junus has said in the FPV drone, but just a newer Eagle chip. Yeah, they've been doing this stuff for a while. They offload the main stuff onto the Eagle. I was already going there. So, there's nothing magical here. It's just got a bit more horsepower, but the main base chipset is the same. And the interesting thing is how much that new horsepower is actually needed, because the V2 goggles don't have this, yet they are compatible with the Avata. So it all sees. Now, as I said just now, we do also have pictures of the internal antennas now as well. Let me close this. This image, and it's not a great image. Massive thank you to the person who shared it. This is a picture of the internal antennas on the goggles too. And they're basically omnidirectional PCB antennas located on the back of the fan, which is right in the middle of the goggle. It is right in the center. Let me grab mine. Here we go. So if I go on the overhead, if you want to know where they are, they're right here, crossed like that. So that way there, that way there. That is exactly that. That sort of nubbing sticking out is what that nubbing there is actually going to. Omnis in a cross pattern. So the spinning fan helps polarize the RF signal. Do I think the new processor chip for future development? They're probably offloading a number of things, is what they're doing. It's a few things with it. It gives them more headroom. It gives them more ability to run their software a bit easier and do the H.265. There is a very real possibility, and we don't know for sure, because there is something really, really weird with the Avata drone, right? DJI say that it is H.265 wireless transmission. Yet the goggles and the drone record in H.264. But if you change the goggles to spectator mode or turn on broadcasting, the goggles record in H.265. There is some real strange behavior in how the RF link is being handled. Now, there isn't really any logic in the RF link being H.265 and then the DVR being H.264 on the goggles. There isn't logic in that. There is on the aircraft side, but there isn't on the drone side. There is on the drone side, but there isn't on the goggle side. However, it definitely changes when you turn on broadcast mode. So we don't fully understand what is going on here at this moment in time. It's just not clear. It really, really isn't clear on that side of things. But that's the antennas. You can see them there located in the nose. You're not going to be replacing them anytime soon. You're not going to be getting to them. They're not easy to get to at all. For those who haven't seen the rest, I have put some more stuff on the wiki. So let me just zoom this back to the right size. 125. Close that. I have done the other internal images as well, so you can see how it looks in the front too from my video. Yeah, but they don't usually do that, Bruce. Most of their consumer drones now record in H.265. So DJI would have no qualm giving you H.265 on the goggle side, because all of their other stuff does it, mostly. Most of them give you the option of one or the other, but most of them do it. We just don't know why they've done it the way they're doing it, and why broadcast mode specifically is causing it to do it. And what broadcast mode has to be on to allow someone to spectate on your system. Now, something else I will add as well. There has been a lot of people on the Avata saying that FCC hack doesn't work. We believe it does, and my evidence is it 100% does. But what seems to have come to light, again, is if you have it in broadcast mode, you don't get the improvements in range and signal than you would get if broadcast mode was turned off. Now, there is no changing RF behavior if we do it. If you turn broadcast mode on and off, there is no change in RF behavior. It looks identical. Power outputs are the same. The carrier is the same. Its behavior is the same. Yet, it is having a difference. And we don't fully understand why. And we also know it appears to be switching the recording to H.265. Yeah, but you're talking about DVR rather than on-drone recording, right? You're talking about DVR. So, okay. So the drone recording remains the same no matter the mode. It is the goggles that change. However, DJI offer H.265 on all of their consumer drones. I know it works, but we don't know why we're seeing these issues. So if you do this and you can't get it to work properly, make sure broadcast mode is turned off. What we fully don't know with that broadcast mode is if the transmission is in H.265 with broadcast mode or not. This could all be a play on words with DJI. And for instance, I would bet my bottom dollar that it uses H.264 100% with the goggles V2 and not H.265. And that's why it doesn't need the extra horsepower and the recording and the media and all the other stuff too. So there's a lot we're still trying to understand on the Avata. There's a lot we're trying to still understand. Probably a typo, Bruce says. It might have been, you never know. Just like support for RID. Okay, so that's DJI, that's that. If you have any questions as we move along, please do let me know. Now, I'm going to take this moment as a time to do some shilling. Number one, if you're finding this stream useful with 234 of you, please do give it a like if you haven't done so already. I really, really would appreciate it. Furthermore, if you do find this content interesting, if you want to ask a question, super chats are welcome. We will always answer a question regardless if it's a super chat or not. However, I will see it better if it is a super chat, and that way I will definitely see it and definitely get to answer it. Furthermore, if you want to support the channel, there is a link to my Patreon in the description. I want to say a massive thank you to all of my Patreons. I would not be able to do this without you. If you do want to support us, please do check it out. Anyway, that's the shilling out the way. Pay the bills, pay the bills, pay the bills. So, and there is a link to my Patreon. I should probably do this all a bit better. But yeah, you should be 10p in by now. Yeah, it's a good point, Bruce. You really should. But there is, there is a link to the Patreon there as well. 63 likes. Thank you, everyone. Okay. We need to talk about ExpressLRS, and we need to talk about Gemini. Now, if you don't know what Gemini is something super interesting. But before we talk about Gemini, we need to talk about something else first, and that is this. The Happy Model EP1 Dual True Diversity Receiver. Now, there has been so much going on in the ExpressLRS world for the last 12 months. We've had new transmitters, more power, and we now have this, which is what they call a true diversity receiver. Now, this shouldn't be confused with other receivers that are out there. There has been diversity receivers in ExpressLRS before, whereas they were antenna diversity. Traditional antenna diversity, one receiving module, but two antennas, RF front ends for the system. This, though, is something a little bit different. This is a dual receiver module. It is not just antenna diversity, it is receiver diversity too. It is literally a double module. There are two SX1281s, two front ends for the antenna system as well. It is fully diversity. So it will pick the best signal from the best receiver, not just from the best antenna. And this is pretty important because this leads on to Gemini and what Gemini allows us to do as well. I'm just going to click on that, which brings up the other side, so you can then see the ESP32 on that side there, which is the single main IC. But again, we have two. Bring that one back up. We have two front ends. Is this receiver got a power amp? That looks like a power amp, so it must have a power amplifier on board as well. I haven't actually checked this. Is it got a telemetry power? Yeah, 19 dBm. So it's a telemetry. So not only is it dual receiver, it's dual telemetry power at 19 dBm as well, instead of about the 12 dBm that you get without the burner. So this thing is a powerhouse, okay? This is available now. However, this alone is amazing. It's going to offer a lot better features because you think you have your packet transmitted from ExpressLRS. That packet is then picked up by both receivers, and depending on which one has the best signal, will then allow it to decode and use that packet. The nice thing about this is it's going to allow you to have antennas in different polarizations. Really good. But also, if one receiver has a bit of interference and the other one doesn't, it's going to help there as well. So, really good to see this. It's going to help, and it's also going to help with the new D modes as well. If you don't know what the D modes are, the D modes now offer multiple packet transmission in ExpressLRS 2. So, for instance, if it runs in FLRC mode, but it sends 2 packets at the same time, 3 packets or 4 packets at the same time to see how it works. But this is cool. But this alone isn't impressive, right? It's when you combine this with what Jay has done, which is this, which is what is known as Gemini. And what Gemini is, and here is his video, I'm just going to mute it a second, where he walks through. If you haven't seen it, it's a fantastic video. Please do check it out. Jay Smith's website, one of the YouTube channel, sorry, one of the ExpressLRS devs, and he walks through this. But what this is, right? This is not only dual receivers, but dual transmitters. And what Gemini does is transmits 2 packets at the same time, but on different frequencies. So with the right special firmware, what you then have is the transmitter transmitting 2 identical packets on 2 separate frequencies at the same time, and the receiver listening for those 2 separate packets on 2 separate frequencies at the same time. If you take the standard diversity setup, it would simply be listening on the same frequency on both receivers for the packet. This, though, is listening on 2 separate frequencies for the packet. Now, this really is super interesting. It really is. He's also now created a board which is going to allow you to actually make your own receiver. It's going to just help make a massive difference. It really is. Now, someone asked just now the price of the Happy Model Dual Receiver. About £20 in the UK. $20, £20, basically. Ah, Captain Bry is here. Now, this isn't going to be necessarily for everyone. This isn't necessarily going to solve every problem. This may not even be for long range. But it is something that is going to help improve the system once again. And on a fundamental level, it's just bloody cool. Absolutely bloody cool. It really, really is. And he's had it tested up in his radio, and you can see here he's got it installed with 2 modules. Obviously, you're going to have to run 2 antennas. But it is very, very cool. Very, very cool. Captain Bright, you can probably answer this. I'm guessing this is done in FLRC modes. It's not done in LoRa. I'm guessing it's FLRC modes this is for, because obviously it's specifically for noisy environments. You can probably confirm with me that. FR Sky's tandem link, kind of same thing. Yeah, it is. FR Sky have their tandem link, which is interesting. It works with any mode. Ho, 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 ho. Hello. Oh, I like this. Yeah, FR Sky tandem mode. I would love, genuinely, I would love a dual 900 and 2.4. I'd be wetting myself on this stream if we had a dual on that. But yeah, you have that tandem link from FR Sky, but it's FR Sky. That's the problem. June Deedon, Duan, I think it is how you say your name. Thank you for the super chat. The 5V to 3.3 regulator, probably linear on some receivers, gets very hot. It seems like 3.3 power input would be a good idea for many receivers. Yeah, it's interesting. It's a very basic linear regulator used on most receivers, but I'll be honest, I haven't seen one burn out. I haven't seen one burned out. So yes, they get hot, but I don't really think it's a big problem. The bigger problem has been the linear regulators on some of the transmitter modules that use a bit more power than we'd like. Stay off the tee. It is so cool. Such a cool feature. And I was just thinking about the logic on this earlier, because obviously they both have to synchronize up. So each transmitter will sync to a receiver, and then they will hop together in their individual hopping pattern. And it's just quite cool. It's just really, really quite cool. It really, really is. I think it's super, super cool. Now, the video is here. I'm going to put the video in the chat after the stream finishes. Check it out. It's great work. From a technical standpoint, I think it's fantastic work. You know, you had the D modes which double up on the packets or quadruple up on the packets, but I really do think this is just so cool. So, so cool. Are they pushing the specs limit on the regulators, or is it something else happening? Timlin Sandy, it depends on the manufacturer. We have had manufacturers that have had regulators play up in ExpressLRS. I think it was some of the Happy model ones had the wrong regulator and they would brown out when you enabled Wi-Fi. A lot of them are trying to just push it as far as they can on size and component, but things are much better today. If you're unsure, my number one go-to in ExpressLRS for hardware is Radio Master. I will be honest, their receivers, their transmitters, you cannot go wrong with the Radio Master gear right now. Genuinely, I cannot fault any of it in any shape or form. I just can't. I would love to see... Can be removed. Yeah, they're assuming the heat can go away. They do push these regulators because I think... it's going back a while, but I do think... if I recall... They were meant to be something like 360 milliamp hour regs or 320 milliamp hour regs, and they were 160s in some of them. Is Radio Master Zorro with 250 ExpressLRS enough? For most people, yes. There are times where I have felt I'd like a bit more power. But for the most part, yes. The nice thing with ExpressLRS, though, is all of this is free software. The guys are delivering stuff that just excite the community. You know, this isn't a manufacturer selling this. This is the community making stuff for the community. No one has to buy this. No one needs this unless you want it. It's available if you want it. I think the Happy Model receiver is very cool. I'll be honest, whilst I have just said I think the Radio Master gear is better, I will probably be fitting this receiver on most of my quads. I hope Radio Master, please make a dual diversity receiver. I will use it all day long. I'll probably end up putting this on most of my aircraft. I'll be honest. I think it just has some nice additional options. I always like having more than one antenna, allowing you to cross the polarization, which is good. You know, there are other diversity receivers out there. I can't remember if anyone remembers who else did a diversity receiver. Maytech did, but I'll be honest, I would stay away from their ExpressLRS gear simply because of the issues they've had. Maytech. They have had some real issues, Maytech, and I just think... Oh, please, thank you, Radio Master. I think Maytech did make a diversity. I just can't remember. Let's just have a look. Someone else made one. I can't. A traditional diversity receiver. There was a PWM receiver. Is it that one? Let's have a look. No, it wasn't that one. Someone else has definitely made a traditional diversity. It may have even been Happy Model. It might have been Happy Model that did it. I can't remember, but I'm probably going to look at that on most of my quads. The day before I heard about the Drift. Yeah, there was definitely a Maytech one then. There definitely was. Why can I not see the Maytech one then? So it's not that one. PWM. Oh, there's 2 pages. Let's just have a look. Oh, God, Maytech's website doesn't work properly. There we go. Yes, there was definitely a Maytech. I knew it was. I'd seen it. Antenna diversity. There it was. Yeah, I knew there was a traditional antenna diversity one. I just couldn't remember who made it. I would steer clear. Don't go near it. If you're going to get something, Happy Model, or when Radio Master do it, personally, I like the Radio Master gear. I just found the quality better. Some of the quality I've had on the Happy Model isn't great, but I'll be honest, I'd like to see that for myself. I'm waiting for them to come into stock in the UK. They're like 20 quid. I might order some on AliExpress and try and get them into the UK, and we'll talk about them then when they come in. But really, really super interesting. The Gemini, I think it's fantastic. I really, really do. I'm probably going to be doing... Tomorrow, I'm going to do a bit of a mod. I might even live stream do this, actually. I'm going to be swapping the receiver. No, I'm not. I'm going to be swapping the transmitter module from the TX12 Mark II with the transmitter module in my Zorro. And the reason I'm doing that is the Zorro, or my Zorro at least, has an older version of the ExpressLRS module that has a linear regulator, whereas this one has a buck converter regulator, and that is going to be more efficient on power than the one in the Zorro. Now, power isn't an issue in this. This has got 18650s, 2 of them, lots of power. The Zorro is a freaking nightmare. It's always running out of power. So I'm hoping to get a little bit of benefit from it. I did look on Radio Master's website, and you can buy their internal module, but it's like $60. It's quite expensive for the module alone. I'm guessing And the problem is the picture for the one they had on the website wasn't radio controllers. If we go TX12, we want parts. I can't remember with the Zorro accessories. It was under here. Here it is. ExpressLRS model for Zorro on TX12 Mark II. Now they're showing you it here, which is $54. But the one they're showing, right? Let me zoom in on that. The one they're showing still has the linear regulator on it. No issues, Jay. This still has the linear. Oh, God. Look, I'm not showing you. This one on the Radio Master website still has the linear regulator. Whereas the one that is in my TX12 Mark II, because I've already torn it apart and checked, has the buck converter regulator. And I don't know how much power consumption improvement there is, but I want that power consumption improvement. Now, if I go under the TX12 accessories, are they showing the same module image under here? I bet you they are. I bet you they are. In fact, they're not even listing it under here. They've got the main board. Is this the TX12? No, radio controller TX12 Mark II accessory. Sorry, wrong one. Buck can be linear or switching. It'll be switching. It's switching. See there, look, they're using the same picture on both, unfortunately. That's the problem. However, in my teardown of it, let me find it. Where will that be? We want that drive there, Radio Master. No, that's the Zorro. TX12, there we go. Let me just find the footage. I have got footage of it internally. The power savings are real. Ah, Captain Bry. Saves about 15 to 20%. The savings are real. Yeah, so I'm thinking of doing the swap. I'm really thinking of doing the swap. I wish I could just buy the module because I'd prefer it in both. But the battery life on that one isn't there. If I do this, you guys can see this there. Here we go. So here is the regulator in the TX12. So here is the module. What I'll do is if I bring up here for you guys to see as well. So if we go into this is the module here. I know the image is the wrong way, but you can see that there's a linear regulator down here, okay? 3 buttons, linear regulator on the original one. And then this is the new one here where they've completely changed it. We've got a buck converter down here now, switching regulator. Switching. Yeah, I keep bucks, switching regulator. So a conversion there. So it should have better power usage. Same unit, just a different version. Version 2.9 on that one. Do they have a version on that? I need to have a look at what the version is on my Zorro, actually. Let's just go back. Radio Master. Zorro. And in here somewhere would have been the teardown of the Zorro, but I can't see it. This one, maybe? Let's have a look. No. Okay, somewhere I should have the teardown. Oh, I tell you where it might be. It'll be on the gimbals video, because I had to tear it down for the gimbals. We'll just have a quick look. It'll be here somewhere. And it'll be the install. Is it that one? No. Oh, I'm talking. You got to get the board off on the Zorro to find it. That's the problem. So that's the top. That one. Hey, there we go. Finally. So that is the module in my Zorro. Just get that out of the way. Get my hand. Oh, no, that's me putting it back in. Right, okay. So that's the module on the Zoro. Oh, you can't see the version number, look. That's frustrating. You can't see it. But yeah, you can see it's the type there with the standard regulator. And then if we go over to the other one, as you saw, it's that. So that's the plan. That should make some savings. That's a little job I'm going to do tomorrow. I might make a video on that one. 1400, 18350s on my Zoro are nice. That should be really good. That should make a difference. Have you chopped it to get the 350s? The 186. What have you? Where are they? I'm losing track of what the size. Have you chopped it? Do I think DJI will make the DJI FPV Remote 2 compatible with the O3 Air units? Or do you think they will release a new remote only for the Air? I'm not sure on that. Okay. That's an interesting question. The O3A unit has 2.4 gigs receive support. We know this. However, that may just be for the goggles to communicate. I have seen the DJI Avata communicating via the remote and goggles on 2.4. I have visually seen that. In fact, I can possibly share with you a sneak peek of that here, which will be coming in a future video. But I have seen it do it. Now, the question is, will it be for... is it this one? Let me just see. Here we go. Let me show you this. I haven't shared this anywhere yet, so you amazing people are getting an exclusive. Here, on 2.4, if I give you the frequency, so we're sitting at 2420 to 2430, what you are seeing here, ignore this carrier here a minute. This is my Wi-Fi in the garage, okay? This mass. What you're looking at is these little spikes, okay? This is the RC link and communications link from the Avata on 2.4 gigahertz to the drone. Not from. The drone will never transmit from. That is the goggles and RC link to the drone being on 2.4 gigs. So it can and does do it randomly. However, whether DJI are going to release an actual remote for the new FPV, I don't know. They could do a revision of the current remote, or they will just choose to use the same one, or they may decide to provide no remote at all. We don't know at this time. Now, something I will share with you, and I'm going to be making a video on this is what Avata looks like on the band. And this is it at its quietest point. So this is it with it transmitting on 2.4 gigs for the remote and RC with the video carrier here. And this is pulse carriers that constantly transmit on the band when you're transmitting on the other mode. Now, what's super interesting is this looks quite tidy. You want to see the Avata when it's all transmitting on the same band. Let me just find it. When it's all transmitting on the same band, I'll be honest, this drone is noisy. It's not that one. Is it this one? No, I might not have a recording here of it. Should I try this one? No, it's not that one. I'm trying to see if I've actually got one with it on. No, I haven't. No, that's all clear. No. That you'll have to wait on a video of that. What I will say is this. The Avata is bloody noisy on the 5 gig band. Very, very noisy. And there are some really interesting quirks around it, which will be coming in a video. Probably with the FPV drone, but it's not confirmed. It's not guaranteed. We don't know what they're going to do. KMNO Jones. Hello, my friend. Thank you for all your wonderful work. Would you recommend for non-DJI goggles for long-range digital FPV for fixed-wing frame? What would you recommend for non-DJI, non-long-range digital FPV? Well, if it's not DJI, it's HDZero or Avatar. Now, I'll be honest, Avatar is still a beta product. HDZero does do some really good long range with the right antennas. So if you don't want DJI, right now it's got to be HDZero. And the reason I've got to say that is I know of problems with Avatar on long range setups. So I can't recommend it because the link isn't stable. The link isn't stable. It's just not stable at the moment, so I can't recommend it. Maybe in 2 or 3 months when they get the link sorted in digital. If not, analog. What's with the waiting for Friday? Do you mean waiting on Friday? Just reading up through the chat. Probably no. Terminal Insanity, the FPV.wtf team won't really do much with regards to dual band and stuff like that. Just read it. What's waiting Friday? FPV.wtf are going live next week. It's not for me to launch their system for them. So I know Junus really well. I'd say quite well, really well. We talk regularly in the sense of we message back and forth. And I know the team there, and they've really been working super hard to get what is coming ready. But it is on their terms. It isn't for me or anyone else to say about this until it's ready. You will notice I have made virtually no content on this on purpose because I was asked not to. I have not gone out there and done a stream showing you how to do this. I've not gone out there and done anything that I haven't been asked to do because I was asked not to. We will talk about what that amazing option brings when it is time to do so, when the team has said it's ready to do so. And that's all I can do. It's not for me to jump ahead of their plans. They're great guys, fantastic people. And look, there's going to be a stream on Friday. We're going to talk about it. We're going to walk through it. We're going to get everything in place for it. And one thing I'm going to say is I really hope the community supports them for the amazing work they've done. There is going to be the ability for people to support it as well, and people need to be doing that, in my opinion, and I will be supporting it as well. Don't you worry about that. I do try to support the open source projects, the ones that at least behave in a way that I feel is responsible, but also good to the community. There are open source projects that haven't behaved that way, and I don't support those projects. Yeah, I do use some of their products, but that is what it is. But these guys have done some amazing work, and when it's time to talk about it, we will talk about it, and that time is next Friday. Just wait a year and HDZero. HDZero is very good today. What DJI goggles you got? So you're getting V2s today. So if you're getting V2s, come onto my Discord server. If you don't know, I have a Discord server. There is a link to it in the description. Tell me what firmware you got. I will talk you through what to do. First piece of advice, don't update them. You've got to activate them. Do that in Assistant 2 for FPV if you can. V1s. If you've got V1s, don't worry. Everything's fine. If they're V1 goggles, update them to the latest firmware. Absolutely fine. As long as they're V1s, go to the latest firmware. There's nothing to worry about. That's version 01.00.0606. HDZero can and it does and it doesn't. It can look very, very good. It a lot of the time doesn't live up to the wow factor of DJI. DJI has that stomach punching wow factor, but that may come with a 1080p mode. But if it's V1s, Nord, if you get it, Noro, if you're getting V1s, just update them. You're absolutely fine. There's nothing to worry about. HDZero doesn't look bad. It's just, it doesn't have the legs of DJI. DJI make very good products. There's no question about it. Is it possible to upgrade the old Radiomaster TX16 with an internal ExpressLRS module? Yeah, you can fit one in there. No question about it. What I don't know on the old TX16, and mine's up there, is... so yeah, you'd have to replace the internal module. What I don't know is how the internal module is connected. Failsafe, you here, you're an expert on that. I don't know how the internal module is connected on the version 1. Is it CRFS? 100%. HDZero has far more community potential than DJI. 100%. But also, as does Avatar in that sense. Walksnail are very, very communicative with the community, and they are continuing to be, as much as Carl was. I'll be honest, they are talking as much as HDZero are, if not a little bit more. So, yeah, both those systems have a lot of potential. However, if DJI release... Cool, that was a big drop in subscribers, viewers. If DJI release what it looks like, it's going to spank everyone in image quality. It really is. So then it'll go back to, oh my God, it looks so good, I can't not have it. The new TXs have ExpressLRS built in. They do. That's the TX12 Mark II. That has ExpressLRS built in. It's on the bench because I use this one a lot on the bench. I fly the Zorro mostly. Yeah, it is a shame, Bruce. I agree with that. Yeah, Ram, there's some dodgy stuff out there. There really is. Okay, so we've spoke about ExpressLRS. Right, the last thing I want to talk about on ExpressLRS is my experience today. I have upgraded everything to 3.0. If you go to the overhead, including this, the TX12, I've upgraded all of my aircraft. I spent like 2 hours doing it today. It was all very straightforward, apart from something that I didn't know, and that is... how do you find out what receiver is in your quads? Now, if you're like me, right, I've got a lot of different receivers. I'm lucky. I get sent receivers from manufacturers for free. I'm not going to pretend I don't, okay? So I'll pick one, throw it in a quad. 6 months later, I'm going, I need to update the firmware. What is the receiver? Now, there are 2 ways in ExpressLRS of finding out, as far as I can tell, there may be more, but there are 2 easy ways of finding out what receiver is in your system if you don't know, if you want to flash it. Now, the first way is via Wi-Fi. If you connect to the receiver via Wi-Fi, it will show you the version on the Wi-Fi screen. Now, to demo this, I will just show you this quickly. Let me just find a quad. This one here. I'm just going to plug this in, and I think this will kick the Wi-Fi in. Yes, it has. It powers the receiver on that one. And I'm just going to put the Wi-Fi antenna there. Now, if you do it on Wi-Fi, you can see on the configurator what it is. Okay? Now, you could still flash it via Betaflight, but it will tell you what it is on the Wi-Fi page. So I'm just going to wait a second for it to actually find it. Now, this is a bit of a risk, changing a Wi-Fi network whilst on a stream, but we'll wait and see what happens. you can find out what you've got that way, but you can also do it via the configurator. And the cheating way to do it via the configurator is try to flash it with the wrong target. Because when you try to flash it with the wrong target, it will then tell you what the correct target is. And we'll show you that in a second as well. Now, I'm just waiting for the Wi-Fi to kick in. So if you are an ExpressLRS user, you've got a receiver, but you don't know what it is, but you want to update the firmware, the easiest way is to connect it to Wi-Fi. So if you've never done this, you would just wait for the receiver to enter the Wi-Fi mode, as mine has now. We're now going to just turn the Wi-Fi off and on a minute, and hopefully this will pick up the ExpressLRS receiver. There we go. Click connect. We're just going to wait for that. For some reason, mine always takes me to this page here, but we're going to go to 10.001. And now, this is the new firmware, but if you look up here, it should tell us here what the receiver is at the top. Up here, you can see it says Happy Model EP12 2.4. So I know this one now is a Happy Model, and if I was going to flash this, it would simply say Happy Model EP12, simple as that. Not a problem at all. One easy way of doing it. However, if you want to do it another way, you open up the ExpressLRS configurator, and as I've said, you try to flash it with the wrong firmware, and then it will warn you. So what I'm going to do is try to flash this, right? I'm just going to come off there a second. I'm going to pick a Beta FPV, RX Lite. I'm going to just skip past a minute because I don't want you to see my binding phrase again. There we go. Hide that. There we go. Desktop. We're going to choose the COM port, and I'm going to say build and flash, okay? So now I've told it to build and flash just a random firmware version. It doesn't matter which. You'll probably see my screen start to flicker in a minute because the last time I did this, it started to flicker. So what it will do is build the firmware, but then it will error because it can't flash it because it's the wrong firmware. So we're just waiting a second. We'll wait for it to kick in. It's doing the libraries thing as it always does. Is it possible to harm things with the wrong firmware? A lot of the receivers are all based off the same firmware. It would be unusual to completely brick it. Here we go. Look, this is because it's compiling the firmware. Good old NVIDIA. We're in the matrix. We will be back. Don't worry. I'm just waiting for it to get to the error. You'll see it now, and then it'll error out. Wait for it. There we go. So we've errored. Okay? And if we now look at what the error says here, this is the real key, this wording here. Wrong target selected. Your RX is Happy Model EP2400RX, trying to flash DIY 2400, that one there. So that is telling me now what my target is. That is telling me what I need to find in the configurator. So if you ever don't know what your receiver is, you can go into Wi-Fi and find it here at the top. It'll say there. But if you can't get onto Wi-Fi, just reflash with a random one, pick something you know it isn't, and then that will show you the version. And that is the easiest way to find out what receiver in ExpressLRS you have in your system. Now, today, I flashed everything to 3.0, and other than one or two receivers giving me a bit of quirk, it all went smoothly. It all went fine. I've done it. I've set the telemetry rate to auto now, or standard, I think it is. And yeah, it's as simple as that. And I've put all my planes, my quads, everything now is in ExpressLRS 3.0. So we're all up and running and ready to go. The radio's updated fine. Everything went straight forward. So if you're not on 3.0, please do check it out. And when I'm talking about ExpressLRS, I want to remind you of this for ExpressLRS, which is their open collective page. If you're going to use it, please, please, please consider donating to the project. As always with open source projects, the amazing work these guys are doing are fantastic. Please consider giving them a donation, a one-off donation, a recurring donation. Just please consider supporting them to allow them to keep doing the amazing work that they are doing for the community. Just catching up on the chat, 2 seconds. Updated. Maddie's been replaced. My stream is going wonky. It always does it when ExpressLRS builds firmware. Something to do with the USB. I don't know why, but it always does it. Someone asked what graphics card. That is an NVIDIA 3080. I updated 2 Matic receivers over one last. Message told me successful, but after both were dead, unsoldered, and then rescued by adapter. Did you leave them enough time before rebooting? The one thing that kills Wi-Fi ones is not leaving them enough time after the flash is finished. Give them maybe 2-3 minutes before powering them down. What video card is that? 3080 by EVGA, funnily enough. Madstech, what's my take on Chris Ross' breakdown of the latency between analog, DJI, Avatar, HDZero, showing most people flying analog is actually flying with more latency than DJI with wide dynamic range? The facts don't lie. Okay, so Almanac FPV. What do I think about Ross's vid? I think it's right. I think half the people out there cannot tell the difference between latency that they think they can tell. I think half the people out there believe that they are the best pilots in the world and will feel every millisecond of latency. I don't believe it for 1 minute. I don't even believe for 1 minute DJI is too much latency for racing. Do I think low latency makes a difference? Yes, but only for the top 10%, the top 5% of pilots. Do you feel a difference in latency when the link starts to go? Yes, you do. You do feel that. You do begin to feel the latency drag on this. Let me just move that over there. You do start to feel the latency drag on it a little bit where, things aren't quite as thing. But the reality is latency is not the be-all and end-all. And yeah, I honestly probably think many analog pilots were flying high latency. But the one thing you need to take into account on that is, even though that analog latency would have been higher, it would have been fixed. So the real big difference here isn't that analog pilots might have been flying with 30 or 40 milliseconds of latency. The real big thing here is that analog pilots may have been flying with fixed 30 or 40 milliseconds of latency, whilst DJI could potentially do 30 to 40 milliseconds or slightly less. It can also change instantly up to 60, 70, 80 milliseconds. So the thing to understand is there's still a fundamental difference between the latency you have on analog and HDZero, because HDZero is not variable latency, it is fixed, and the latency you have on Avatar and DJI. Whilst DJI and Avatar can get down to very low latency numbers, that is not fixed and it can vary dramatically, and that is the bit that people feel. I don't necessarily think people can fundamentally tell the difference between 30 and 40 milliseconds, but they can certainly feel the difference between, say, 40 and 80 when you have that spike in the system. And that is what people are feeling. I think someone would be just as happy after flying with 50 milliseconds of latency fixed as they would 30 milliseconds of latency fixed. And actually, what will be really, really interesting in this, and this is going to be really interesting, is when we have the HDZero goggles or the HDZero 1080p mode versus the current mode. So 1080p mode is going to be at least 36 milliseconds of latency, because the amount of time it takes for a frame at 30 milliseconds is going to take, it's double the time than it is for 60. So it is going to be longer than what we have today. Okay. So, but what it's also going to be is fixed. So we're going to either have that 16 to 17 milliseconds frame on HDZero plus the system latency time, or then we're going to have that 33 to 35 milliseconds frame on HDZero at 1080p plus the system latency. But the real big difference will be if you're running that on the module versus running it on the goggles will only have 3 seconds system latency, whereas your module could have anything from 5 to 20, depending on what goggles you're using, HDMI, it's all going to make things. So again, it's all about the variability of the latency and not just the fact that it's a high number. I think 55 milliseconds fixed is absolutely fine once you get used to it, because you know what it's going to do. You know how it's going to behave. That's the difference. You will adapt to higher latency. What you can't adapt to is a latency that suddenly shifts. That's the difference. Sorry, that was a bit of a rant. Just catching back up on the chat. I feel every nanosecond. I second that. I'm just catching down. Hello, Sean. I can always tell when switching between analog and DJI. Yeah, and it may not be the latency, it may be the variability of that latency. Oh, Bruce said, fixed latency is the kid. The brain adapts very quickly to high latency, but it has trouble with varying latency. There we go. DJI gives us fixed latency mode. It is going to be interesting that Avatar have said they're going to give us a fixed latency mode. That is super interesting. Be really interesting to see how, I've said interesting 3 times. I'm going to say it again. It's going to be super cool to see how that turns out. Fixed latency mode. We've never seen a fixed latency mode on a 2-way transmission system. We don't know how that's going to work. It's going to be interesting to see. Thank you, Almanac. No problem at all. Almac. Have the ring buffer always go to 30 milliseconds. I don't have any other ideas. Now, I'm not sure how they're going to do that. I don't. And then you're just going to have to purge and just go. And we've not seen it. It's unmeasurable difference for 95% of people. I agree. Just don't resend any packets and it turns it into a broadcast. Yeah, but if you don't resend packets, I think it's going to fall apart completely. That's the problem with DJI. I think if you've ever tried spectator mode on a DJI FPV system, you'll know that not sending packets isn't an option. You'll be like 20 meters out and it breaks down. It needs packet rebound. It's how they... The problem is going to be, it's going to rely on how accurate their latency measurement is in the first place. I'm not convinced they're going to do anything special other than sort of... Yeah, as Juna said there, resend, but always wait up to 10 milliseconds. So the total frame time is 30 milliseconds, so you have a variable buffer depending on the LQ. Yeah, I don't think they're going to do anything special. I think they're just going to tweak it. No, it's then just like, yeah, but it's not, because HDZero is not compressed like these ones, Bruce. That's the bloody problem. They'd have to fundamentally change the RF front end, which they can't do. You know, HDZero is joint source channel coding is the term they use. It's just not remotely the same as the OFDM coding, the traditional coding blocks that they use. You know, HDZero basically streams in unencrypted line by line. Yes, there has to be compression, but they compress certain parts of the image and not others. It's still rather complicated how HDZero works. You sure the DSP could do HDZero? Yeah, it's just nicking. Well, unless they just literally copy it. Could be interesting. Has there been a teardown of Avata yet? Yes and no. There has been a bit of a teardown on a TikTok site, but I haven't seen it really hit the mainstream. Yeah, they could do that, Bruce. That's interesting. I still think a RAM buffer to fixed, higher than minimum latency. Yeah. I want to see an Avata fly without ducts. I tell you what I have seen this week. So many crashed Avatas. So many destroyed Avatas. People are using this drone for the wrong thing. I was flying it tonight through the woods. I tell you what, it's a great drone for going into places you wouldn't usually fly. I took it for a bit of a spin around the woods. I just went out with the kids for a walk and I took it with me. And it's great for just flying through the woods and the trees and stuff like that. What it isn't is an FPV race quad where people are turning it into just utter destroying it. I've seen some complete messes since it's released. It's ridiculous. It's not really designed for that. Do you know what I mean? It really, you know, it really isn't designed for that environment. You know, tonight, where was I? Let me just find where I was. Where did I take it? I was just in a dark woods tonight. Just taking it for a spin through a dark woods into places you wouldn't normally go and just going, you know, it's really good for places that you wouldn't usually fly. I stopped here a minute because I wanted to have a look where I was going. And then I goes for a heading off into the woods the other way, I think, if I recall. Is this the one where I head off into the woods behind me? I can't remember. Just taking it for a spin. No, this not there. It might be this run here. It might be the last video, actually. Again, just taking it into the trees and place it. I turned return to home off, Bruce. It is. I was just having a play around, just having a look. I got a bit close to that one. I think it's this one where I shoot past and I go past. And you're just having a scout around. I was getting used to the new longer Amazon sticks. I ordered the new sticks, which give a bit of extra length on them. And I think it was just flying past. And then I was just heading off into the woods. It was dark in there today, but I wouldn't ever normally fly a drone through a location like this. I just wouldn't do it. You know, this video comes to an end now and the other one carries on. You know, it really, yeah, wait there. You need the next. I need the next. It really is not for banging it around into trees at high speed. It's at its best as a cinematic drone when you just keep trying to find gaps and you see a gap and you think, oh, I'm going in there. Oh, I'm going to go through there. And, you know, it's just how it feels it's good for. That's what it feels it's at its best for, you know, these kind of flights. I think it was this one where I took it up into the woods a bit more and you're just taking it into the woodland area just for a spin and having a look around. And, you know, this low, you're just doing this low level through the trees. I was just having a mess around, I think, here. I don't think it was I was trying to get used to the new sticks today. Yeah, again, I think it's this one here where you come in. You know, this kind of, you have these nice options and moving it into the bushes. Where was I up in the trees? Where was it I went up in? That was the first time I went in up there. It's just that, you know, it's really nice for this sort of stuff. It really, really is. It really is. I was just going around in circles. I've only actually got one battery. My biggest problem at the moment, that is wide field of view. Yeah, you've got it here. This is it in super wide. So I put it in the widest field of view. I messed with the settings before I went. And I think I just went off just to have a look and just to see how it was behaving. This was just the first round, I think. And then, where is it? I'm trying to see where I actually went up into the woods. At one point, I go up into the woods and have a look. And then heading up. Yeah, so you can do stuff like this. And you wouldn't use, you know, I wouldn't usually be heading quads into places like this. But, you know, you're coming through and you think, oh, I can make that gap. There we go. We'll go through there. It's not really cinematic because I had to slow down. Watching a little bit. It was very dark in there, to be honest. This was at like 6:30. It's about 6 o'clock tonight, maybe 6:30. The light level is dropping down here now. So it was do some stuff. Yeah, it's just, you know. How was the fog in the goggles? Today it was all right. It was all right today. But yeah, it's not designed for smashing it around. I've only got one battery, so I haven't had as much flight time on it as I would have liked. What's really annoying on it is showing it's great for slow flight. I'll be honest, I think that's what this drone is for. 100%. I don't think this drone is, don't get me wrong, it flies very well fast and you can get some nice stuff, but I think this is a cinematic FPV drone in slow or tight spaces, and that's what it's best at, and that's what I think I enjoy it as. I've ordered the longer Amazon sticks. I still find the sticks a little bit oversensitive, and the annoyance is that you don't have adjustment for them. You only have adjustment for rate mode. I wasn't flying manual here. I was flying it in GPS. I should have flown it in right, I was just flying in traditional GPS mode around there. I was just letting it do its thing. The only thing I changed was I told it to hover in signal loss instead of return to home, just in that environment. But it flies absolutely fine through the woods with no GPS. It is really good at it. It is really, really good at it. You should see if it will lift a 5-inch quad with a battery, use it for recovering crashed quads. Interesting. What goggles do I prefer at this stage? The V2s didn't fog too badly today, but it was quite cold. What time was this footage? I'll tell you now. 18:21. So 20 past 6 at night. That's why it looks a bit thing. It was dark. This wasn't today. This was tonight. Yeah, it will. That was in standard. I could move it down. The tilt will go down. Yeah, I left it as it was. That was just out the box. I just left it as it was. Still hyping for the HDZero goggles. They won't be long. They'll be very good. Right. Let me just... Right. There are 176 of you here. Please do give us a like. But I have seen some terrible crashes on this drone this week. Terrible crashes. Just, it's not designed for that. Not flying with a motion controller. No, I was on the main one there. I flew the motion yesterday. I tell you what I did fly with it, though. I flew it with the crosshair on. Although I don't think it's in the middle. I did notice that the crosshair, of course, it just seemed to be not quite where it was going. But it looks good. It was just literally, I've only got one battery. I finally ordered a second battery because I haven't been able to get them. So I've ordered it today. I want to now be able to get it out and do a bit more cinematic stuff with it. That's what I want to do. It's not an FPV quad. It's an FPV cinematic quad is what this is, in my opinion. It'll do other stuff, but you don't want to break it. It flies well. It goes well. Try some ND filters. Probably need some NDs on it. Yeah, absolutely. I haven't got NDs yet. I need to get some. You know, it's. I've seen some really nice footage. You know, people early morning flights like on a beach and flying under benches and stuff like that. If Avatar release a VRX module, make the Avatar. They are definitely making a VRX module, and we will have it before year end, as I understand it. They are definitely doing it. Avatar are definitely doing it. If I snap the tower antenna from an EP2, can I solder a spare ExpressLRS antenna correctly? Obviously, yeah, it'd be about the same. Yeah, if you solder it to the same point, it'll be fine. As long as you do the soldering well and it's fine, it'll be okay. I have a bunch of EP2s. The only other thing to mention on ExpressLRS, some of the target names seems to have changed, and I had to force update the beta FPV module. What was nice as well is finally, if for anyone who has the Hawk Apex, which I reviewed earlier this week, and Sean did on his channel as well, there is a proper target for ExpressLRS 3.0 in the configurator now. I flashed it today, and it's finally all on the proper build. But if you do have a Hawk Apex 3.0 HD, make sure you change the arming position of the switch to the high end, not the low end, because they've got it wrong. He's added other cameras. Right, I'm going to talk about one last thing. Two last things. First of all, the action camera week. The GoPro Hero 11 and the DJI Action 3. For me, there is no competition here. Frankly, I felt the DJI launch, and let's put it up, was a letdown. There was nothing here I thought was any good. I just didn't see anything here on the Action 3 that interested me at all. The camera doesn't have 10-bit. Yes, it has a slightly larger sensor than the GoPro. But other than that, I just didn't think this camera was anything special. I really didn't. Now, today I have been using my Action 2 as well for some other stuff. And I just think it's an Action 2 in a different housing. I just don't think there is anything special here. And I tell you what, the review I watched, Potato Jets, that was a good video. That is a good video. But it isn't the price. It isn't that much cheaper. I don't believe for one moment this camera is that much cheaper. And I'll tell you why. Let's go to GoPro. Okay, so the Action 3. 4K 120. Nice. Nothing bad, just nice. Horizon steady. Yeah, it should have that anyway. 60-meter waterproof, dual touchscreens. Okay, I like the front screen on the Action. I do like that. The image quality appears still noisy, still appears to lack dynamic range, and it doesn't have 10-bit out the box. Potato Jet's video was really good, and everyone could see the image just wasn't as good. So, 1.1/7-inch sensor, which is larger than the GoPro. And the one benefit this camera has, and someone said, is really, the only thing it really has is its price, okay? So, it was nice they kept the mount. I will admit, it's nice they kept the magnetic mount on the bottom. Where's my Action 2 gone? It should be on the bench here. Oh, it's charging. Where are they? It should be here in front of me, because it's been charging. It has vanished. Oh, it's there. It just fell off. So there's my Action 2. And I do like the fact they kept the mag mount. Okay? That's nice. Going down, though, there really is nothing fantastic here with this camera. Nothing particularly new. Nothing particularly groundbreaking. It really just... It didn't bring anything new to the table. However, GoPro 11, I have to say, I am seriously tempted on this camera. Seriously tempted on this camera. Now, 10-bit out the box, DJI have said 10-bit is coming on the Action 3, but it isn't here today. So it's complete and utter nonsense that they've gone, oh yeah, we'll have 10-bit in the future. Tough. GoPro have it now. It should have been there on launch. It is not good enough to release the product without it up front. And DJI have a habit of doing this recently. Oh, we're going to bring it in the future. Well, I'm sorry, it needs to be there today. 10-bit, better, bigger sensor, much more megapixel. Overall, the GoPro looks a better camera in every way. Now, people are saying about the price. So, let's look at this in the UK. So, 309 quid for the Action, or the 11 Black with the GoPro subscription, and I'm going to talk about this in a minute, is 399. So, you're getting the subscription included with it. So, you're going to take it because it's basically free. However, if you take the Action an add key refresh as well, which is similar to what they've got. Okay. So you take the action, shop, and you'll go, yeah, I'll have the two-year plan. Add to cart. The basket total is 300, I think it's some £40 off the top of my head. When the DJI website wants to wake up. Compared to the GoPro at 400. DJI's website appears to have crashed on me. Don't know why. Exit page. Is DJI just gone down? No? There we go. Wake up. Thank you. There we go. DJI just went on the fritz. So 339 versus the GoPro at 399. I'll be honest, I'd go with the GoPro, and you're getting a free SD card with the GoPro. Now, yes, DJI's key refresh cost to replace is cheaper than GoPro. But I'll be honest, I think I would still go for the GoPro camera here. Genuinely, I think the GoPro is just better in every... When the price is that close, I'd just go for the GoPro. You got 5.3K 60, 2.7K 240. If you want what, okay, you've got 4K 120 on the DJI. But how good is that going to look? That's the problem. That is the issue. I'll be honest, I think the GoPro is a good deal. Someone said I'd wait for the 11 mini. I'm not convinced the 11... Right, if you take into account the battery weight, right, on the GoPro, and I looked at this, this is super interesting. So the 11 mini is 20 grams lighter, yet the GoPro battery weighs about 20 grams. So if you use the GoPro with a dummy battery for power, you're getting the same weight and you have all the extra functionality. So I'll be honest, I'd probably, whilst I think the Mini is interesting, I don't think they've saved enough weight on it. I think I'd go for the full size. I would seriously be, I am seriously tempted on the GoPro. Had external battery like Runcam. Yeah, if they had an external battery, I think it would have been a no-brainer. And I'm a little shocked, actually, at GoPro. I expected them to be a bit cleverer than they have. I expected them to have made the 11 in a unified platform. And what I mean by this is they would have used the same PCB in both cameras. Because what would be logical here is for them to have made the 11 semi-modular from a PCB point of view. So you have your main SoC PCB, and then you have the additional PCB for like the display connections and things like that. And I assume that GoPro would have made it that way, but they actually haven't. I've seen a picture of the PCB from the 11 teardown, and it is fully the same size. It actually goes around the camera and all the way along. And I'm shocked that they haven't used their brain more. I am astonished they haven't used their brain more. A unified PCB would have made so much more sense for them from a manufacturing cost, because they could have used the one board for both, and then just, you either then have a second board with the parts that you need for the one camera or the other. I'm surprised they haven't done that, but it doesn't appear to be the case. So they are going to be two different PCBs. They're not a generational shared platform, which I'm surprised at. I'm surprised. But yeah, I think the GoPro is a better deal. Genuinely, I think it's a GoPro. I'll be honest, I was disappointed in the DJI launch. I saw nothing here that made me want to get rid of my Action 2. I'll be honest, for me, the Action 2 is a better camera. It's not a better action camera, but it's a better camera for FPV. It's definitely a better camera for FPV. There's just nothing on the Action 3. Sean said it just now, actually. With Sean's comment. Sam and Rose FPV. Hello, my friend. How are you? Mini is $2.99 with subscription. Yeah, Mini is going to be... Yeah, they didn't bring the bones to the UK. The Mini will be interesting. I would have liked at least one screen on the Mini. With the weight, they haven't really saved much weight on that camera. They really haven't. Geo Fancy and Reed. Sean said it. I think Sean said it best just now. Where is Sean's comment? The Mini 3 was basically fixing the mistake. Where is it? It's disappeared. The Mini 3 is basically fixing the mistakes of the Mini 2, I think he said. It's just to fix the mistake, which was the Mini 2. There is still talk of there being a GoPro session. There's solid talk of that. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced at all. I'm not sure that'll happen. I just think if they're making the Mini, why would you make a session as well? I think that's just a bit weird. I am tempted on one, though. I'll be honest. I'm seriously tempted. The GoPro Mini, no. Fixed internal battery. Carl, fixed internal battery on the GoPro Mini. That's the big downside. The problem with DJI, there's no real Okay, so David Martin's question. I mean, purchasing the Action 3 instead of 11, especially if you're buying other DJI products, there's a benefit of grouping your DJI cameras and drones to get synergy where you get no synergy with GoPro. There isn't much synergy with DJI, and that's the problem. You know, there really isn't much synergy there. They all use different apps. The color science on them all is different. They don't really all look the same, so it's a hard one. I think you just got to choose the better camera. You know, look, if $60 is important to you, there is an argument to be said. If you're going to smash it up all of the time, the DJI is a slightly better deal because you can get K refresh. Hello, William. How are you? And DJI don't let their stuff work with the other stuff. Yeah, 80% DJI customers own more than DJI one product, but there's no synergy. It's a different app. You know, okay, if you take here, right, I have probably more product. Right, here we'll go down this road. V2 goggles, FPV system, Action 2, Avata, Mavic 2, this represents my Inspire 2, okay, which is behind me. Right. None of these will work with any other part of these, okay? So, the Avata doesn't work with my V1 goggles and uses the DJI Fly app. My DJI Action 2 uses the DJI Mimu app or MIMO app and doesn't communicate with any of these other products. My Mavic 2 Pro uses the DJI Go 4 app, which also doesn't communicate with any of these products and won't work with either my V1 goggles, my V2 goggles, or my goggles 2. My Inspire 2 which uses a different system, has its own remote controller, is again not compatible with any of this. There is all of this stuff from DJI, yet none of it will work with each other. There is an FPV remote controller up there, which works with these goggles, but won't work with this drone. There is an FPV remote here, which works with this drone, but won't work with these goggles, and won't work with this drone either. This drone's got a remote controller in here, which won't work with any of this stuff. So when we talk about synergy with DJI, there is no synergy with this company at all. They could barely make the toilet door actually lock if they made toilet doors, let alone make a bog that flushed. When it comes to electronics, they are inept in making their own products work with themselves. It is literally a complete and utter fucking shit show of how bad their products are with regards to communicating with products within their own ecosystems. And this is just the start. There's a Ronin here by DJI, which again uses a different app because it won't work. Now, I'm not having a go at the person. I'm having a go at DJI because they're a bunch of twats when it comes to making products that don't work with each other. So when we talk about synergy, there is no synergy with this company. They barely don't even communicate with themselves internally. They don't even talk to their own bloody support staff. And this is the frustration with DJI. And people often say, oh, you know, I'm against DJI. Look how much money I've spent on DJI. Everything here I've bought. None of this was... Actually, they were free. That's a lie. Nothing works. Nothing works together with this bloody company. And they should be ashamed. They should be absolutely ashamed. And do you know the worst thing? The worst thing, see, you've started me now. This is it. One more thing. Do you know the worst thing? They made me buy their bloody e-waste. And do you know what the worst thing is? I'm now liking their e-waste as well. So not only did they make me buy their e-waste, but they forced it upon me, and I enjoyed it. And now I'm lapping up their e-waste. So that's the kind of company they are. Not only are they actually taking the piss, I'm now beginning to enjoy it as well. This stream didn't end the way you thought it would, did it? And I'm not having a go at you. I'm not having a go at you. I've been around DJI since 2013. I've been dealing with this crap from them since 2013. It's an utter shit show. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for tonight's live stream. I hope you have found this one interesting. If you have, please do make sure you are a subscriber of the channel. Please do make sure that you are hitting that bell button as well. That way you'll get an update when I do more stuff like this in the future. I want to thank everyone who has been on the live stream tonight. It has been an absolute pleasure. If you want to support the channel, again, there are links to my Patreon as well as Buy Me a Coffee in the description. Please do consider checking them out. Please do stay safe. We will be back on this channel 10 p.m. UK time next Friday to talk to the amazing guys at the FPV.wtf team. So please do make sure you're here. Please do make sure that you've hit the button on that one as well. Stay safe, and I will speak to you soon. Thank you for all the super chats as well. I forgot to say that. I'm going to go and try not to have a stroke over DJI now.